Welcome back, survivalists. So today I wanted to run through some of the key differences between a $30 hammock and a $300 hammock. And believe it or not, there is actually a feature to this $30 hammock that I like so much more than the $300 hammock. So for the $30 hammock, we're gonna be using the ENO Single Nest. And this is a very popular brand. And this is actually my very first hammock, and I have slept in this exact hammock out here in the woods many times. And for the $300 hammock, we're gonna be comparing it to the Hennessy Hammock Ultralite Explorer XL. And this is what my current hammock setup is I use whenever I do go hammock camping today. Now I did make one small modification to it, which I'll touch on at the end of the video. So I'm gonna break this video down into 3 different segments. And the first segment I wanna talk about is comfort. How comfortable are these two hammocks, and are you gonna have more comfort with a $300 hammock versus a $30 hammock? So with the ENO hammock, when you're talking about comfort, I do think that this is more comfortable than sleeping in a sleeping bag on a thin sleeping mat on the ground, or even a small inflatable mat on the ground. I do find this more comfortable than that, but it's not a 10 out of 10 comfort level. There is actually a few features of this that I find very uncomfortable. And what those are is that there are certain points in this hammock that just get tight. All my weight gets put on one spot of the hammock, and I can just feel the tightness on the hammock itself. So as an example, I feel a lot of tightness in the hammock around my shoulders. And whenever I lay down like this, I always feel like this is pushing my shoulders forward. So whenever I sleep, I feel that pressure on my shoulders, and my back kind of gets concave like that. And I really don't find that comfortable at all. And when I'm laying vertically like this in the hammock as well, I can just feel a lot of pressure on the center of the hammock. When you're hammock camping, you really want to actually sleep at more of an angle. And this way you're kind of spreading your weight across like the different strands of the hammock. But with this ENO Single Nest hammock, there just isn't that much material. It is just constantly pushing back against me, preventing me from comfortably laying sideways or at an angle on it. And I just feel a lot of pressure points and a lot of pressure on me trying to kind of constrain me whenever I sleep on this. So as far as comfort goes, I would give this like a 6 out of 10. Like, I still think it's more comfortable than a lot of traditional camping situations, but it could be a lot better. And I think it's just the lack of material in the hammock itself. Now, ENO does make a double nest, and my understanding is that it just has more material. I've never used it. I've only ever used the single nest, which is like their base model. But for me, being 6'2", this just isn't really big enough. It's like long enough I can lay in it, but it's just not, it's just too constraining on me. And I don't usually get that great of a sleep at night whenever I sleep in this. So if we compare that to the Hennessy hammock, this thing is very, very comfortable. This is literally like a 10 out of 10 in comfort. This is almost as comfortable as my own bed at home. And I think a big reason for that is there's just a lot more material, and it's just a lot more spread out. And I can actually sleep at an angle in this hammock perfectly fine. I have more than enough material in order to do that. Another thing that I like that Hennessy hammock does is that they have these elastic hooks and straps included in their hammock that actually stretches out the base of your hammock just to give you more room. And I really enjoy that, and it does make it much more comfortable. Now, there's a couple other features to this Hennessy hammock that I think psychologically make it more comfortable as well. One of the biggest complaints about hammock camping versus traditional tent camping is that you usually feel a little claustrophobic and enclosed in your hammock, and you can't really spread out and kind of spread your gear out and spread your junk out. So they have a pouch here for a lot of your gear, and I like that a lot. So it has this ridge line here with this pouch, and you can keep all of your gear in here rather than having it in the actual hammock with you. And just psychologically being able to kind of unpack yourself a little bit and have a little gear pouch here, I think psychologically that's kind of a nice feature. It also has a couple hooks here on the ridge line as well. It also comes with a built-in bug net. So in terms of comfort, keeping the bugs out is obviously going to make it much more comfortable. But psychologically, again, going back to hammock camping versus tent camping, when you're tent camping, you have your own little enclosure and you just feel much safer, I guess, when you're tent camping. When you're hammock camping, you're kind of out in the open. You feel a little bit more vulnerable. you know, a deer could literally come up and lick your face while you're sleeping. So you just feel a little bit more vulnerable. So I like having this mesh netting here just because psychologically it just makes me feel a little bit more protected. I don't have to worry about a deer coming up and licking my face. And I think that those are some important elements when you're considering comfort. It's not just the physical comfort, but it's the psychological comfort. And I think that with this gear pouch and this built-in bug net, Hennessy Hammock has really just nailed those two features. And so I feel very, very comfortable in this hammock, and I definitely give it a 10 out of 10. So another important element is what is actually included with the hammock. And with the ENO hammock, all you really get is the hammock itself. It has a built-in pouch, and it has 2 carabiners built into it. And that's all you get. So you need to provide your own straps or your own rope. Now, I recommend that you also get the ENO hammock camping straps, and these are additional, I think, $30 for these. But I'm actually pretty happy with these. And all they are is just a long strap that you loop through itself, and it has a series of other hooks on here, and you just attach your hammock to it. And so one nice thing about this is that they are very easy to use and very easy to set up. And the straps are so long that you can go around wider trees like this. And I'll touch on that with the other hammock, that it doesn't come with very wide straps. You can only really use thinner trees, which really frustrates me. So I'm actually pretty happy with these ENO straps, but they are an additional $30. Now, one negative to them, though, is that you can't really fine-tune where you have your hammock. So, for example, I have the hammock at this strap. If I wanted it right here, I can't really do that. I need to go all the way up here to the next strap, and this could be, you know, not exactly ideal. Now my hammock is too high, whereas before it was too low. So with these straps, it is a little bit harder to kind of fine-tune where you have your hammock. Now, if you have some rope, you could use some rope with your ENO hammock as well instead of the straps. Just be cautious though, because some ropes, they stretch very easily in that direction. 550 paracord, for example, if you try to set this up with 550 paracord, you're gonna wake up with your butt on the ground. That stretches very easily in that direction. It's not really ideal for hammock camping. So just keep that in mind, that if you do go with the ENO hammock, you're probably gonna have to buy some additional hammock camping straps. And I'm happy enough with these ones. These are also from ENO. Now, the Hennessy hammock, on the other hand, really does come with everything that you need. It comes with your actual hammock. It comes with straps to attach it to the tree. It comes with a rainfly or a tarp, and also has a built-in bug net plus a built-in gear stash inside the hammock as well. So it really does just have everything that you need. Now, I will say that I'm not wild about these straps. If you see how big these straps are, I can only really use these on thinner trees. And even just setting this up, that was a little problematic for me, because I had to find a thin tree to attach this one to. Where with the ENO hammocks, I can go around literally a tree twice the size that these smaller straps come with. So that could be something that you may want to upgrade in the future. And I'm going to show you a hack that I have for that for myself. But the Hennessy hammock does come with everything that you need. Now, a lot of people when they first get into hammock camping, they don't really think about the rainfly all that much. And you don't technically need one if you're in ideal situations. But it is definitely really nice to have for like that psychological purpose, but also to keep you dry in case it does rain. And this rainfly will actually keep you warm, right? One, it can help prevent the wind from blowing over you. There's a couple different setups that you can have for this, but it'll help prevent the wind from blowing over you. And two, it'll capture a lot of the air and heat that's coming off of you. And the air kind of right beneath that hammock, or right beneath the tarp, will actually be a lot warmer than the air outside of that, just from your body radiating that heat. So it kind of traps that heat around you, kind of creates a little bit of a cocoon of heat around you. So I do recommend having a tarp that go along with your hammock as well. And with this kit, it does come with all these different items that you need. So the next element I want to compare between the two is how easy it is to set the two hammocks up. And this is actually where the ENO hammock with the ENO straps shines. I actually prefer setting this up a lot more than the Hennessy hammock setup. I just find it so much more intuitive and so easier and much, much quicker. So let me just show you how, really quick. So you have your ENO straps right here. All you need to do is wrap this around the tree. and you feed one end through the loop of the other end like that. Now you have a couple of different loops that you can connect to. You take the carabiner of your hammock and you just feed it through one of these loops. So it's super, super easy. You just do that on the other side. And believe it or not, these straps, they very rarely ever move down. Just you having that pressure on them is going to keep them up. And so you can literally set up your ENO hammock in 30 seconds. It is incredibly easy, incredibly simple. And I also love how long these straps are. You can see how much space I have on this. It gives you a lot of flexibility if two trees are not really close together. They are a little bit further away, or you have a really wide or really thin tree. You know, either of those you can use these straps with. So in terms of setup and ease of use, the ENO hammock definitely wins out. And this is so much easier to set up than the Hennessy hammock. But I'm going to show you a couple hacks that I've kind of come up with over the years to make it a little bit easier to set up the Hennessy hammock. So this is the one element that I do not like with the Hennessy hammock. I do find it a little bit more cumbersome to actually set it up and adjust it and fine tune it. And it really comes down to this element right here. And I will show you a couple hacks that I've come up with to make this a little bit easier. But first off, it comes with tree straps for each side of the Hennessy hammock. You really do want to use tree straps because they're not going to they're not going to damage the tree. If you literally just had a cordage like this and you tied it around the tree, that can kind of rip up the bark and damage the tree. So having straps is just kind of the responsible thing to do, and it does make it just a little bit easier. But first off, I think that these straps are just too small. I found numerous trees out here that I just could not get these straps to fit around, and I just couldn't use those to set up my hammock. The other element that I don't like about it is that there's no carabiner or anything like that. They don't recommend tying a knot to attach your cordage to your straps. What they actually recommend is lashing. So lashing is just a pattern that you wrap the cordage around the straps, and you never actually tie it. But if you do this enough times, you don't necessarily need a knot. You could just leave it just like this, or you do a half hitch just to kind of tie off this excess here. And that alone will provide enough friction that you don't actually need to tie a knot. And they went with this style because they say that it's going to allow your cordage to last a lot longer. If you're constantly tying knots in this, it's hard to get them out sometimes, and it's going to damage the cordage over the years. By using lashing instead, this cordage here is going to last you a long time. So theoretically that makes sense, and I understand why they do that, but I still hate it. I hate it because I always forget this pattern. It's kind of a specific figure 8 pattern that they recommend, and a lot of times I end up just kind of wrapping this thing around any freaking way that I can just to get it on there so I can have a good night's rest. Another thing I don't like about this is that it's harder to adjust it. So I've now got all this lashing here, and let's say I want to loosen this up, or I want to tighten this up. I have to now undo all this lashing and adjust it again, which is just very frustrating. So because you kind of go back and forth between the two sides, just kind of fine tuning and adjusting it. So in terms of setting this up, I'm just not a fan of this, and I wish that they had a different option of how you want to attach this. So one of my favorite little hacks to kind of solve this problem that I've discovered over the years is this little guy right here. And I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but I'll have a link to it down in the description below. But it's essentially a carabiner on one side, and then on the other side, you have this thing that grabs the cordage for you. And all you do is you feed the cordage to one end, you feed it through these teeth, and then you can just pull on it, and you can see that it locks in place. And I love this. This makes it so much easier just to fine tune my hammock, and I can have one of these on each side and really just fine tune it, and you just lift this lever, and then you can release some of the tension. And this thing is only about $10. So I bought 2 of these, one for each side, 20 bucks, and this totally solves that problem. And this makes this so much easier to set up and really fine tune, which I think is more important. And it makes it easier to tear down as well. I don't have to worry about this whole crazy lashing mechanism. Literally just flip this lever here, and then I can pull this cordage out. So this thing is a real game changer. And if you're gonna buy this little attachment here along with the Hennessy hammock, then yes, this is definitely a recommended hammock. I really love this hammock with this specific feature. I'm still not wild about these straps though. Now another simple option is that you could just buy a heavy duty carabiner and tie it off to the cordage that comes with your Hennessy hammock and simply attach this to your tree straps, whether it's the Hennessy hammock tree straps or if you wanted to buy a different brand of tree straps. And that makes things a lot easier just to set up and tear down. You can even do something like a trucker's hitch where you could pull on this and adjust the hammock height as well. So now you know the difference between a $30 hammock and a $300 hammock. Check out this video I did right here, breaking down the 10 most common mistakes that people make when they go hammock camping. And don't forget, I'll have links to all the gear that are featured today down in the description below, as well as this little guy right here, which I highly recommend that you buy if you do go with a Hennessy hammock. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you over in the next video.